Welcome to the Stampscapes lab. Don't blink or you'll miss this one. This is going to be a really fast reflection card. I think it should be. This is one of the new Deanna Tubb-Sedillo designer background papers. They're pre-printed papers. They are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 standard quarter size piece of matte cardstock. I hesitated there because this is pretty smooth. It's almost like a hot press, but this is pre-printed here, so it's going to have some printer inks on there. But it's also porous enough to accept just about any ink that you want to put on there. The pairing that we'll do is with a piece of silver metallic mirrored cardstock. Okay, it's not the kind of like the brushed aluminum style of a silver cardstock, which some of them can be, that you want to get one that's a little bit more mirrored. Okay, now I pre-printed a couple pieces on here already, these two silhouettes, and I'll talk to you about printing on this type of paper with heavy silhouette types of objects like that, and how you'll have to compensate for kind of the difficulty with printing those types of images on here. There's other types of images that have no problem stamping on here. Okay, so I really love these papers of Deanna's. They really give us a really good option to do some really quick scenes on them. But I like them so much, I really love using them in this reflection card format because I get kind of like two of her backgrounds in one card just by adding in this reflective element like this. So it's a really good option, and I would really suggest, giving these pieces reflection cards a try sometime. It's just so easy, and I think, you can get some really dramatic results. Okay, so this lower portion represents water. Hello, Linda. And I'm going to take this one right here. I mean, you can choose, top and bottom. I see this as being, for this card, I see this being more at the bottom. Now, I like to stamp on these cardstocks, these pre-printed papers, with a slightly thicker ink than a dye-based ink. It will take dyes, though, but I'm going to use my hybrid ink here. It has some black oil-based pigment ink in there, and I think black water-based dye ink. You can use like an excellent choice would be like a VersaFine Clair. I need to get a re-inker for my Clair. It's really dry, so I'm using this one. But that would be a really good option for you. Okay, now I'm going to stamp this a little bit below the horizon here. Down a little bit farther. I don't know if I stamped it low enough, actually. We'll see. I just wanted this to go off the bottom of this paper right here, because that will kind of represent the shoreline. And I think I did right here. So what you'll get is that will be kind of the distant, whatever, shoreline of this, what will end up being like a cove. Now here's one of the things. See this right here? I don't want this reflection of this part going down into her head like that. So here's like the typical angle that you would view this with right here. I don't know, maybe I did go a little bit into her head. I don't know, you can view it like this or whatever, see, like that. It's not too bad. Now I'll put another one over here, but see, I'm not putting it right here because it would be reflected right down into my horse, and I want that horse to be nice and dramatic. So you just kind of, when you're doing a reflection card, you take the reflected area into consideration when, I don't know, placing like focal points down in this lower section. I mean, for the ideal type of kind of whatever composition, if you want, objects to stand out. If you do, kind of obscure them or something like that, not really any big deal, but it's sometimes open space is better, which means you just kind of keep these compositions pretty simple, I think, to be, the most effective. I've done kind of more in-depth compositions, but I tend to like kind of more minimal types of looks with these reflection formats like this. Okay, let's see right here. I'm going to put this one, this much taller tree over here. And again, I'm taking this and I'm going below that horizon line like that. And let's see, so that is about like that. Let me get my bearings here, speaking of kind of obscuring those lower objects. Okay, so I'm going to put this right here, right in the seam of that. Go like that. I typically hold this down a little bit longer. Again, because this is a pre-printed paper, so you have those printer inks on there. And you want to give the ink a chance to penetrate the surface of those printer inks a little bit, or just to transfer onto the surface. I don't know if it's penetrating, but you'll get a little bit of a darker impression if you just kind of hold the stamp down a little bit longer than maybe, you know, you would on a piece of matte cardstock or something of that sort. Okay, I think that looks good, but I want to have a little bit of a smaller tree right in here, I think, because I'd like my pieces to go down a little bit like that, like it's sloping into there. So I'm just going to take and put a little bit of this one right here, and I'm going to follow up with that right in there. Okay, same ink, and this impression won't be interfering with any of the objects in the lower portion. So this should be find a stamp anywhere here. Okay, I'm masking off this tree a little bit, and we'll go about right here. And see, that kind of trails down like that. I like that a little bit better for that opening. And I just used a little bit of that. It's like a ½ inch or so. All right, so let's take a look here and see what we have. All right. Okay, now those are the main images stamped up top there. We'll color them. But one of the problems with stamping out real silhouette-y types of objects, and it looks like that if there's like a, I don't know, a ½ inch or so of solid area, you tend to get that area. Like sometimes I did pretty good right in the body of this horse right here, but see that head right there? That head is supposed to look more like this, okay? It's solid, and you can see where in her body and down here in the shadow a little bit, it didn't stamp out like that, okay? And you can see there's a little bit of a perimeter thing like that going around in there. It's just like, I don't know, it's wet ink. Maybe if I hold it down longer or something like that. But the one thing with StazOn, and you have to use StazOn on here, okay? I mean, you can use other types of inks, but like a Brilliance pigment ink, water-based, it'll dry on here, but you have to spray seal it though. And I used to do that, but I like using the StazOn better now. I don't know, maybe if I'm doing like heavy silhouetted objects, maybe I should go with the Brilliance and just spray it. The thing with spray sealing this, anytime you spray it, it doesn't look quite as mirrored. It looks a little bit foggier. It's still pretty reflective, but I like to have as much of that reflective quality as possible. So as much mirror-like as you can, you know, because we're starting off silver cardstock. We're not starting off with like a mirror. So the closer to that reflectiveness, you know, the better. If you are spray sealing, just use a workable fixative rather than the thicker kind of gloss spray. It just works better, I found. I thought the gloss would look better because this is a glossy surface, but it just puts on a thicker layer on here, and it gets even less reflective. Okay, it's a softer reflection. Okay, but anyways, what I'm getting at here, if you haven't seen me do this before, I just go in with a Sharpie or just any kind of permanent pen, and I fill in what the impression is missing. Okay, so sometimes I have to fill in a little bit more than others. If you need to use a extra fine pen, you can, but see, now we have a pretty solid print right there of that. Okay, now if it's kind of didn't print out somewhere in the reflection, I don't really care because I want that to kind of taper off anyway. But you can see how that's not, if I hold this at an angle and it's real glary, you can see where I've placed the Sharpie pen. But for the most part, it just looks like that. And then when you do something like this, it's not really that big of a deal. You can kind of even it out. I just kind of filled in the area, that where it didn't stamp out. But I mean, if you want it to get it more even, you can kind of fill in this whole area like that, or a much wider area, and it's going to take you like, whatever, 15 seconds to do. Okay, so you see here, I just kind of filled in that horse a little bit more, and it's not that glary anymore, or you can't really see as much where that Sharpie is positioned, okay? You see that right there? It's, you can get a really good kind of a cool looking piece in just a relatively short period of time with these background papers. Thanks to Deanna for, sending me a couple test pieces, to play around with, as she's done before, but just thanks in general for creating these. It's really a fantastic tool for us. Yeah, especially if you just don't have, some time, but you want to just get something down on, something created. All right, so I just use my Tiny Rock Small, and see that right down there? Doesn't that kind of like even out or blend out our imagery in here a little bit more? And it also says that we're putting our two figures in kind of more of the shallows like that. Okay, now this leaf stamp right here, leaves, it's called. I don't have any problem with it stamping out on this silver cardstock, metallic cardstocks, okay? Or any kind of mirrored, cardstock, gold, silver, whatever. So it seems to be just, I don't know, just the types of cards, images that are just, there's too much of a solid area, okay? So something like this, these leaves, they stamp out perfectly, or something like I use my ledge down here, or boulders with lichen a lot. Zero problem with that. So it just it seems to be kind of the thicker, bolder images. Okay, so see that right there? That stamped out absolutely fine down there. There's our foreground. It puts us closer to shore too when you put something like that. Plus, it also kind of frames the piece out for us. And it's the shoreline, but it also puts something like, whatever, 3 feet away from us visually, as opposed to having her as the closest thing to us, okay? So what you've done by placing these in here, she looks like she's probably, I don't know, whatever, 20 yards away from, I don't know, 15 yards away from us, something like that, I don't know, 10, 15 yards away from us. But now you've put something 3 feet from us right here. So we've really increased the visual depth of a piece of the composition like that. All right, so let's go in. Hello, Sheila, how are you? No, Sheila, could be, a photo if we have some, a photo like that, but it's Deanna's papers. One of them, one of her new ones. Um, I think they're. When she sent these to me, she said they're going to be released like the following month. I don't know if that was this month now. I lose track of time so easily. Um, but they are on the um, what's the company that puts these out for her? Did someone answer that in here? I don't know. Um, okay, my mind's a blank. Which shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone. I forget the name of that company, but they have them up on their website for sale now. Her latest set. She's got a bunch of sets too. I don't know how many at this point in time, but if you haven't tried any of these, really fun. Okay, so going back to that photo idea though, if you had like a photograph of this and you printed it on your inkjet printer, like on a matte piece of cardstock or something like that, you can probably do the same types of things. I'm not sure, like inkjet printing and stamping on inkjet inks. It's like, I don't know if those would be like a lot different. I don't know. It might seal it off more than this, but you should be able to, go over it pretty well with, different types of media. Like I said, like earlier, the VersaFine Clair might be an excellent one to utilize on this surface. Let's see. Okay, so I'm coloring with colored pencils right here, kind of a light green and a lime green and like a pine green, darker green right here. Let's go in. These are larch trees right here. So I'm going to bring in some colors out of this, this background right here and put that into the larch trees in here, okay? So the larch trees, there's different colors of, larch trees in the fall. They're kind of like deciduous conifers. So I've seen them in photographs with a lot of yellows, but I also see them in photographs with like oranges and like bright reds. So you can color these open trees any color you want, which is perfect for this type of background because if I want to kind of harmonize these trees with that background, we can go for these types of colors right in here. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Cynthia, Candy. Good to see you all. Blue Knight. Yes, thank you. I mean, I haven't looked on their site, but look for whatever papers, I guess, unless they have it under her name or something like that. Does anyone know kind of the size of the packs? I think you get several of each what background. But if you kind of start stamping on it and you mess this side up, what was a good idea with theirs was they came up with there's this universal background on all of them. So if you mess up on one side with the main background, you can use this other side to stamp on. Don't mess that side up, though. You get two chances. Yeah. But a lot of I guess in the past, though, the background image wasn't Deanna's on her papers, though. But this one is, I think she said. Which, I don't know. I think they should have done that. I think the background paper should be for whoever's doing them. I don't know if they have multiple people doing those backgrounds, but it should be, if all things are the same, the same person. All right, so here's some greens right here. I'm leaving a little bit of the interiors here closer to the light source, lighter, so I'm making it darker on the opposite sides of the trees. I mean, this one's like top lit kind of, so I'm just leaving that one a little bit lighter. All right, let's use some brighter tones right here. Those were the colored pencils. Let's go in with and layer it a little bit with alcohol ink. In this case, you can use watercolor pens too. Um, does anyone use lip plumes or tombos anymore? This is lip plume, but it's the alcohol ink. It's not the watercolor ink that everyone used to use. All right, let's see. Let me see if I have a here. We'll go with yellow. I was going to go with the green, but the trees are starting to get a little bit dark with all of my media on here. Yeah, Sheila, they're really fun, these pieces here. Or, I mean, yeah, you can do like you've been doing. You've got those photos that you've utilized for the for your photo stamping have been really amazing. They were like perfect for photo stamping, and your utilization of them was awesome. It's like, oh, that's like the perfect application for that. That photograph. Okay. Acrylic paint pen. The tree's got a little bit dark here, so we're going to put the light back into it. Let's take a look and see though how this is looking here. All right. Oh, that looks better. See, here's the thing. This looks kind of dark to me, right? But if you're putting it in a mirror card format, I almost forgot about this too. But see that how much brighter it looks up, or lighter it looks? It's because you get the light coming from it here, but it's also coming from it here. It's like going surfing or something like that. You have the light coming from above and reflecting back up in your face in the, off the water like that. So okay. See, I already kind of forgot about that little kind of tip right there. Tracy's still using her tombos sometimes. Okay, now see, Tracy uses the tombos. It's like when I don't know if too many people had the La Plumes and tombos, but because they were the same thing. So I don't know. Yeah, Tracy, did you choose the tombos, your dual tip tombos over the La Plumes for any reason? I didn't know if there was like a kind of a consensus, if one was better than the other. I never used those. I never colored like that back when, in the days everyone was using that type of thing. I was always doing, the Marvy 1500 pens, 1500 series pens. But I knew, yeah, everyone had those though. Okay, so I'm adding in those little textures right up in here, giving that more dimension. I'll go a lot lighter here too. If your pen starts getting clogged up, kind of don't pogo stick it, just kind of get it flowing again. It's probably something that's up in that little tip right there. So just get it like that. Don't go like pogo stick it like that, and smash it down. I used to see that being done in my classes sometimes. If people didn't use paint pens, they just weren't used to using them or something like that. Sometimes they'd start doing that. They would do it with the Marvy, I think, white paint pen. It was like a oil-based pen that we used back then. And then Sakura or something like that. Sakura had a water-based white pen, and those were my two white pens that I used to use back in the day. But people would be going like this with it, like you know, and then there'd be like this big old puddle of like white paint on. They wouldn't be doing it on their scene, but they'd have it like around their table. That's when I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I don't know. Eventually, I remember to mention that every time. Or what I would do is in class, I wouldn't pass those out until people got to that point, adding in the details into their scene, and I would just explain it to them as I came around and handed out those pens. Because if I kind of explained some of those things early on, or gave them all the information on all media, it might be an hour before they got around to doing that, so they might have forgot about that. All right, so see that right there? You got those highlights right in that, right there. Kind of brings that tree to life, and it makes this whole area look a little bit more dimensional, doesn't it? Okay, she got the set. Okay, as a gift from the owners. Well, that's a good way to decide on which one to use like that. It's like that's how I got some of my stuff. It appeared. That's like the best way to get stuff, actually. It's like this background paper. To tell you the truth, when I first got these papers, I always loved Deanna's stuff, for sure. And, but it took, I've mentioned this before, like when I did a little unboxing of these papers, it took me a little bit of time to kind of figure out, for me, how I would use them, okay? Because some of them, they're real kind of, upon first kind of examination, adding the tree trunks, by the way, they're established, backgrounds, and also kind of the direction of them. Like I wouldn't use this one probably unless someone like really put out a challenge. I wouldn't use this one horizontally like this. I'd use it like this. It looks like this, right? It looks like water down here, probably ideally, so you can put stuff up here on the horizon. But like I said in my video, it's like I started thinking about these in terms of like components too. So it's not just, okay, I can put like something right here and right here. Sometimes there might be a big moon in these pieces. And so I know how I could use them just originally off the bat, but then when I started using them more, it was like, oh, it can just be like a component. I can add something down below and extend this out. So that's what this is doing. It's extending out the background paper beyond its dimensions so I can utilize it down here strategically. So for me, I really love this background, but I don't want to use it so minimally that there's hardly any imagery on here. So I can really do so much more with it. In this case, like this, because she sent me some multiples of some of them, but some of them I have like one. So I was like, I'm going to maximize that. So now instead of like a quarter-page piece right here, it's almost like a half-page piece, but it's like so much more dynamic too because it's like that, got that reflective quality in there like that. Anyways, you can see what doing those little highlights on there did right in there. Let's do the same thing. One of the things about these background papers too, I mean, I love photo stamping for sure, but And this is kind of akin to that type of thing. You know, you start off with, you know, kind of an established color scheme, temperature scheme, etc., value scheme, and you're either stamping on it or, you know, you can use those things for other things too, like with vellum, stuff like that, and put it in the background. But you know, a photograph's a photograph, and you can do things with a photograph too. You can change it and alter it in Photoshop. You can give it more of a, you use filters on them too, and make them more expressive. You know, you can change it to like a, I don't know, like a pointillism or something like that in Photoshop if you know how to do that. Okay, what I'm getting at here is Deanna's done these in the background with pastels, so she's created these hand-created pieces like this. So they could be potentially a little bit more expressive, you know, in terms of something created by hand, than maybe the photograph. You know, it's just kind of a different look. So like with all these things, I guess, you know, I guess it's with photographs too. It's like you're almost doing a collaborative piece with whoever, you know, took the photo or, you know, in this case, created the background right here. Okay, so adding in some of this white pigment. Can't do this on all of the pieces as easily as this one, but this one has this really light horizon in here, so I can come into it like this, and this white pigment ink can really harmonize with that, and we can bring that in like that. Okay, like so. And look at that. See that little kind of hazy glow in the background? Isn't that really fun? And it really creates a kind of a textural contrast with these really sharp kind of foreground pieces in here. Okay, now on horizon cards, I've mentioned this before, but a lot of times, you know, I don't get these like completely flush because you have to kind of, you know, I use a spray adhesive on the back. I just give it a light spray, and then I'm dropping it down into here like so. Inevitably, I'm kind of off like a 32nd of an inch or something like that on either side, or just this card base isn't trimmed exactly, you know, to the sizes of these two components in here. So what I do is after I get this glued in here, do try to get this really butted up in here. So what I have is I have the adhesive on here, and I have this folded like this. And I do this for the first piece too, but I really kind of butt that up in there like that. And then get that in there as close as you can, and then lay it down like that, okay? And then if you have a little bit of overhang or something like that, or under, what you do is you just, I take this and I just fold it in half, and I just cut this in. I have a pretty heavy paper trimmer, one of those guillotine ones, and I just trim off. I don't know if you can see that there, but see that silver piece is hanging out down there. I don't like that. And then, you know, sometimes I've been putting on my, you know, an extra word stamper up here. And if you're sending this out as a card, sometimes people are like puzzled on what to do with that. So you just write on this side, on the bottom side of it like that, you know. So it's like intro, whatever, body, climax, you know, like in a movie or a book or something like that. And this is where you write your greeting on here. I don't know if you write it this way or if you kind of, you know, write it this way. I usually tend to think about doing it right in here, but sometimes I'll put a little component from this, you know, in the back, like a little leaf or something like that, you know, on this one. Oops, my paint wasn't dry, but see, I got that right here. I'll dry that off, but this mirrored type of surface like this, it's really cool because you can just go in here and it's mirrored, so that'll buff right off like that. See, like that? And this stays on, is all on here. I don't do this. You're going to put like fingerprints on here, but I'm just showing you that this paper like this is really easy to work with, like that. be careful that you don't kind of scratch it up or anything like that. Maybe I should use a cotton ball for that instead. But I think I'll put a quote stamp up here. And if you put quote stamps on the inside of your mirrored pieces, I would go high with it, like that, where it's not reflecting down here, because it would reflect kind of, what is it, like upside down, in this area right in here. So I tend to go high with it so that, see, if I go like this, see, you can't see my finger right in here, so that's not going to be reflecting down there. But if I go like lower like this, and I put a quote stamp right there, or word stamp, it's going to be an upside down, reflective word stamp in there. And I don't like that type of thing. But yeah, right up top here, I think it looks pretty good. So anyways, I don't know. I'll figure out what to put on the outside of this one here. And also right in here. But that's like your really fast and I think, pretty dramatic reflection card piece. Thanks to these pre-printed background papers by Deanna. And Deanna, this is like her third or fourth pack or something like that too. So she is using her papers too. So I think what she is doing, when I took a look at the latest ones, I thought the first ones right off the bat were really cool. And I think she knew how to conceptualize the usage of them early on, but I think she's even like refining it even more. So she's, changing where she has like the lighting and stuff like that and where to position things. This is like rule of thirds right here, kind of like third, 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 like that, like on this horizon here. So there's all little things like that I've noticed. Here's another piece like here that she did. She did this little lantern piece right here and put this illumination down here. But here's another cool piece. But here's this third, 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 like that. So this is like rule of thirds right here. So she's kind of, I don't know, whatever. She's taking care of that kind of good compositional type of structuring just inherent in these pieces like this, for us. So things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted you to, and she sent me some larger pieces too. These ones are not in the packs. They're all the quarter size pieces, but she gave me some of these pieces to kind of experiment with. But I've used some of these before too, not only as a card like this, okay, but you could do it on this one right here, but I did it like as a horizon card, so I folded it in half, and this became my horizon, so things came up from here, and this was the surface down here. I don't know if I would do it with this specific one. Maybe if this came up a little bit higher, then this could be like sand or something. But all kinds of like fun possibilities and really dramatic and expressive and all those types of things, because the background itself is already expressive. So my thing with that is, on this case, is just to use it kind of minimally. 2 impressions up here. Well, it was actually 3, but, just a little bit of trees up there. And, this area down below couldn't be easier to do. But watch my little thing if you just kind of joined in here, where I talked about stamping out large silhouettes like that, and how if they don't stamp out, you just fill it in with some extra Sharpie pen like that. Stays on used down here, okay? And I get better impressions with the Brilliance ink, because it's thicker, I think, but then I would have to spray seal it. Where it stays on, it's ready to go right now. You don't have to do anything to it. And this top portion up here too, because it's matte paper, I really don't need to spray seal anything up there. So this card, and this whole piece is like done. The interior's done at least. And yeah. Fun stuff. Okay, let's see. I'm guilty of Linda Pogo sticked her pens. It was not successful for unclog. Yeah, you got to kind of wiggle it a little bit and get that little bit of the whatever clog. It only takes like a small kind of dry area of the pen, unless you're talking about like I'm trying to think if there was some other pens. But yeah, sometimes you have to release the pieces. But if it's pens you're always using, or like the latest of the acrylic pens, for the most part they're watery enough where they're not like permanently clogging in the interior there, or where that nib opens up into the reservoir like that. So just kind of press and hold like that a little bit, and then scribble like that. Now, sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's like, a pen can just be so far gone where you've used up most of your paint. And I don't know, just the ratio of binder to pigment has changed, and it's just become like a lot thicker after a lot of usage. I've been pretty happy with these ones, the Artistra ones, though, and I've used a couple of them up like complete to like dryness. I thought it was clogged, but it's like, oh, I used up the whole thing, which is good to know that you can do with those types of pens. And they just, they're not gonna clog before they're empty like that. What's the difference in water? Okay, so that's a good question, Candy. I mean, you know what it would be from the sound of it, but you're asking what would be the difference in terms of the appearance of it. Well, I got some oil-based pens, okay? So I got these right here. Okay, you can see medium oil-based pens. That's what that says. It's not focused in here. And this is the fine tip oil-based. And I thought that these ones were going to be like that older Marvy oil-based white paint pen, okay? And that pen was really, really opaque, and the dots were almost kind of shiny. And I think, I mean, it wasn't like three-dimensional or anything like that, but I think it was more raised than, especially the more watery types of acrylic pens, like most of them are these days. They're that way so that they don't clog. But I didn't find any difference between these. Now, this is just one brand too, and I don't know, a lot of the types of like acrylic pens, they're all kind of the same, but some of them aren't, okay? But this brand right here to those ones, now these are good, but I couldn't see anything visible between these ones and that one. Now, maybe if I use it thick, like these are like rocks right here, because that's what a lot of these pens are kind of. See, like they use these examples of rock painting where like people are painting on rocks, and I don't know. I don't know if you're like putting them out in the garden. I've seen people do that walking around. I've seen like rock painting. So maybe if you use like a big slathering of it, it's shinier and a thicker application of it, which would seem to make sense, but I just could not see it in my usage at all. But it could be that it's, mine again was a watery, oil-based one. I was hoping for thicker and more opaque, shiny, that type of thing, dimensional. But that one wasn't, so yeah. So it's a good question, Unfortunately, my long-winded answer is I don't know what the difference is, I just know the difference between that one that I tried for the first time, and it's nothing. There's no difference at all. I don't know if it would be more prone to clogging either. I have no idea. That would be on the Oregon coast there, huh, Sheila? You'd certainly have access to those like perfectly, shaped rocks for that, nice and kind of weathered, or, yeah, huh. I don't know. Sheila, have you ever done it? Any kind of rock painting? All right. But anyway, like I said, really fun card. I don't know how long this took me. I didn't look at the time, but this, this one could be, I don't know, 15 minutes or something like that. There's 2 impressions up here, 2 impressions down here. I mean, it's like four, it's like five basic impression. I mean, I have the leaves over here and here, but I mean, it's like five stamp, well, six stamps if you count the little uh, rocks down here. You see all those rocks though? Those rocks are like really effective down there. It kind of brings everything together a little bit more. I don't know if I should use some up here. Actually, I use them in the distance sometimes too, right along that shoreline like that. I don't know. I don't need to, but you can use like that same tiny rock small one right there. But give it, be careful that you don't kind of like when you get stamping with this, get kind of used to the, you know, the steady impression because you're stamping this on this slick surface. You don't want to stamp it down and like start going like really fast and it's like you slip like that. Okay. You know, if you we always mention this every time, but if you've never stamped on like a mirrored type of cardstock metallic one, do a few test impressions on just a scrap piece, you know, designated scrap piece of cardstock, and then give it a try. And then what you also need to find out is how long to hold your impression down for to give you a really strong impression if it's something like these. I mean, with the branch one like that, it didn't really matter too much. You can hold it down for 3 or 4 seconds or 10 seconds, like the same thing. But I think with these silhouette ones, like the pressure that you give, you don't want to press too hard, otherwise it's like squish, and you get that kind of outline around it, you know, where it's like the rubber's getting squished out and the sides are being kind of making an impression. That kind of happened on this one a little bit. So get the feel of it, you know what I mean? And then what you'll get like a muscle memory. It's like you'll know how long to hold your impression for, and it also depends on like when you've re-inked your pad, your you know your StazOn or whatever you know solvent ink that you're using on that type of surface. So you know do that, and you know you should be good to go with you know the potential for like a really fast card, especially if you're using that background. Of a you know pre-printed background or a photograph up there. This would be really fantastic with any kind of you know background up there like that. So yeah, it makes it really fun. My only question with this one was if I should use silver down here, but being that this is a really warm tone up here, or if I should use the gold like that. That gold looks really good too, doesn't it? It changes the spirit of those reflections of those things right in there, though, doesn't it? So see like that there, like that. This one's a little bit more true to the reflection, but you know, and this one's definitely warmer, of course, because it's gold, you know. But I don't know. That gold looks awfully good, though, huh? Now that I put that down there, I'm starting to think, does this look a little anemic now? I don't know. But that's the beauty of it, you know. You can always change it around. You do the same composition right here, different, whatever, different top portion, or just change the bottom portion, you know, if you're doing like a bunch of these. This one's like enough, you know, quick enough probably where you can do it on like an assembly line if you're sending out a bunch of the same things. But if you get bored of it, then you send out whatever, 10 of them with silver and 10 of them with gold or something like that. You know, just to change it up a little bit. Huge rock painter. Well, Sheila, you're the one to answer that question, you know, because there's the acrylic pens out there, and then there's the oil-based ones, you know. Or you can ask your sister, you know, if I don't know if you have you use those, ask her which you know what's the difference between the acrylic and the oil for the pens. And of course that's she's you know doing it talking about the context of rock painting with them, but she might have some really good information on that, and also on brands maybe too. Yeah, glad you like it, Holly. Linda likes the gold. I think the gold looks pretty good too. It changes that right there. It doesn't, and then you have that gold reflecting back up here, so it changes all that a little bit warmer. Well, next time. I checked it out earlier, and I thought, I think the silver maybe would look a little bit better. But now that I'm done, maybe the gold. All right, folks. Just a quick one today. She uses acrylic and never oil. Okay. I wonder why, though. Hello, Tony. All right, thanks, everyone. Tony, here's the finished piece like this. A little reflection card like this, quarter-page reflection card. That. I need to glue this top portion in. But just a real fast one. Sometimes the fastest types of formats in cards can be like super dramatic, you know. Especially in this reflection type of format right here. I really love doing these types of pieces like this. It's like the opposite in this one right here. You know, I've been doing these really minimal colors and things like that. But, you know, this one right here, you get the color up there. And I didn't even need to do it because Deanna did it. It's reflected right down here. So really three-dimensional. All right, thanks, folks. Hope you have a great rest of evening. And hope to see you on the next live stream.